Alex, you preach a lot of things, but when you're winning, maybe sometimes it doesn't really hit home. Does it feel a little bit different now that it's coming off the loss?
Well, it absolutely does. I mean, you have a tendency to kind of hang on to some of the things, after a win. I think, in some ways that's a positive because you can really attack those things. You circle it and you got the outcome, and so you're not worried about feelings of the guys or, you got kind of the individual plays and individual outcomes on drives to kind of focus on those things. That after a loss, then you got to really flip this thing fast because you go down a dark path both as players and coaches. But certainly, the thing is they don't catch up to you until they catch up to you. Something that is glossed over when, and believe me, from a coaching staff standpoint, it certainly is not. But you feel. Obviously the ramifications of it. If you tackle poorly on individual downs, and you get the outcome, then you do more tackle drills on Tuesday and Wednesday, and you move on. When it happens after a loss, you say, well, God dang, why can't we teach tackling? Where's the truth lies somewhere, hopefully on the side of we do know how to teach it, we do know how to coach, we just got to do it better and execute one more time. And so try not to go to the extremes, I guess, when you don't get the outcome that you want. And I think it's been 14 months since we've been in this situation. But unfortunately, the feelings after the loss come back to you real quick.
I was looking at Iowa State and what they do. Charlie Kolar was a guy who was a problem for you all the times last year. What stands out to you about him, the way they're using him this year, and also your guys and their ability to defend?
I think he's a tremendous player. I mean, I think they're what they're able to do with their tight ends. That coaching staff just a tremendous job of finding ways to exploit you defensively. Obviously, you open a lot of things up with the run game. You got an experienced quarterback that's been doing it a long time at a high level, and so I think in a lot of ways when I watch them, it's kind of nothing. Nothing's out of the realm of possible in terms of flexing out tight ends, and 13 personnel means nothing because you get every different formation. There's a pretty good chance they're going to motion on that particular down, whether attached or not. And then you have big bodies that can just attack footballs. It's one thing to be big, it's not as if Kolar is the only tall tight end in the country, so his skill set and what they allow him to do and what he's able to do is just a unique challenge. And so whether it's zone or man, it's a challenge for defenses. Obviously we just worry about us, but the film suggests that we're certainly not the only ones that are kind of a step behind at times in terms of defending some of those things. The easy answer: put a man on them. It's the basketball principle in terms of getting boxed out at times. Can you get more pressure on the quarterback to not allow some of the vertical, passing game? You got a pretty good quarterback at scrambling that's been doing it a long time. And so, tremendous coaching staff that has tremendous players, and certainly Charlie's one of them.
Which secondary player has made maybe the biggest jump between week 1 and week 10? And I know you're reluctant to name names, but is there players that maybe haven't not made that big a leap as you wished you would this deep in the season? And is there time to fix that?
Yeah, I think there's always time to fix it. I think so often it's probably smaller gains that are needed as opposed to large gains. Obviously, Turner Yell was out for a stretch, playing at a high level, out for a stretch. You come back, has missed a couple opportunities, but made some opportunities as well. And really highlight Justin Broyles over the course of the year. There's individual plays that you get mad at every single one of them. Certainly some of the guys that from a consistency standpoint, that's the thing that you would highlight the most is our disappointment from a consistency standpoint. To stack, whether it's a Tuesday practice into a Wednesday practice or one Saturday into the next Saturday, really across the board. And can it be fixed? Absolutely. It should have been fixed. My argument would be yes, but a lot of times it's not the same play from the previous week. It may not be the same specific technique on an individual down. Obviously, it's a different receiver that you're going against. Maybe at one particular case you're too aggressive, another time you're too passive. What was the maybe another time they catch you in zone coverage and Other times they may catch you in man. And so it's a little bit of everything that way. And the chief thing is through all those things is from an individual player standpoint, and obviously it goes back to coaching from an individual player standpoint. Play needs to be made when the ball's in the air, whether it includes me as 1-5 DBs on the back end or not. Eventually, I'm going to be that one, and I got to make sure I do it. Obviously, Attorney made. DT made a great play on a play last week, and so those plays have to go up. We've made some, we have not made enough, and we're going to be challenged specifically this Saturday to make plays when the ball's in the air.
Kind of to piggyback on that, you've got all your guys back now in the secondary, and you've had some guys play multiple positions. So how confident are you that you don't have to play a guy 70 snaps, if you get 70 snaps, that you can rotate guys now at every spot? Are you more confident?
We certainly like to. We've been less able to do that at safety. The one thing that you don't see every week is what's the injury report on Tuesday and Wednesday. Who's out with a flu or something like that, and some of those stuff. So some of that has taken place along the way as well. So guys don't get a chance to do some of those things, and some of it too. From a trust standpoint, what have guys done? When they get in the game. We spent so much time, giving, really force-feeding reps early in the year. You get into November, this is the stakes are much higher, and so tryout season is over. But certainly we'd like to play more guys, but those reps are earned. We certainly are going to take someone off the field, and that's in our current situation, which is a positive situation to be in, which is one of the few teams in the country that are still in the mix for postseason play. Within the conference, we got to make sure that very protective of those reps and how players play over the course of the week to earn those reps on Saturday.
Yeah, Alex, I wanted to ask you about a specific play. It was a 3rd and 12 in the fourth quarter when Abram Smith picked up a few yards and then sort of pushed the whole defense forward for a first down. How frustrating was that play to watch, and is that the sort of play that can kind of be backbreaking? Because they did end up scoring another touchdown on that drive.
Well, I think the result was just as you saw it. It was backbreaking. Did it need to be? No. I mean, we talk about response all the time. It's one thing to talk about. It's another thing to actually go do it. I mean, I thought probably it is. It's a specific play in the fourth quarter, and if you see the specific issues, I think maybe there's 250 yards on the board going into the fourth quarter, and then all of a sudden, we're a non-functioning defense, which is an extreme statement, but the stats would suggest that. But it comes down to individual plays like that. I felt like as well as we finished at times over the last year and over this year in particular, certainly. That fourth quarter, got us the outcome that we deserved. We earned that, and that's a specific example and a good example of not getting it done from a defensive side of the ball. Did we lose belief at the moment? I can't imagine our history would suggest that we wouldn't believe we can still win a football game in some of the ways we've won it. But in any event, the play is the play, and I think it's a good kind of indication of how we play in the fourth quarter. So we got to get these guys to finish.
Alex, when you look at the Baylor tape, was there an area that went way south that was really unexpected for you, or sort of the opposite almost? Was there something that you thought might not be good and it turned out okay? It didn't hurt you? Like, when you look at it, were there some bigger issues that kind of struck you?
Yeah, I mean, you have a list, and it's. I wish I had the list in front of me. When you don't get the outcome that you want, I mean, you circle everything. But I think finishing in the fourth quarter, you talk about one play not beating you. I thought we allowed an explosive run at the beginning of the fourth quarter to kind of dictate the outcome. That wasn't a scoring play, so we should have an opportunity to respond to it. We didn't. I think. One of the things with that, I mean, obviously the rushing numbers, which is just a terrible performance in the end. That's exactly what we got. The frustrating part is it didn't have to go that way, but it did, and we got to take ownership in that as coaches. How did we let that happen? We got to make sure that our emotional response in a lot of ways. I think you're looking at the scoreboard as 7-7 or 10-7, whatever it is, and it's in some capacities, these guys want to make a play. I think that's not always the case, and sometimes that's a real, simple answer, and kind of is a hell of an excuse if you want to buy into it. But I think on that one particular play, that's exactly what it was. And you see that, really what it took to kind of get you in that situation, a 10-7 ball game in the fourth quarter against a quality opponent in the month of November. What was required of us is to execute our job one more time, both as players and coaches, as opposed to this is not the time that, okay, we want to make a play. Absolutely, we want to make a play. But we got to do it. We got to make sure that we understand we're 111th. That's been one of the focuses defensively. You're 111th, and just be the best 111th that you could possibly be on that individual down. I think also, too, I will say this is, and some of it is when you haven't gotten you've gotten the outcomes, but not necessarily the results that you want. And we've talked about it at length over the course of the season. I think two things you can do as a coach is you can say less in terms of coaching. You can coach less and kind of be guilty of that, not telling your players enough. The other side of it, especially coming off a bye week, you can tell them too much. And in some instances, I think we're guilty of that. You're trying so hard to give them that one answer that's going to flip the script for them, and having them have more production maybe in the front or do a better job from a coverage standpoint. If we tell them that just that one more coaching point, if the stretch zone play is such a big play of their offense, man, that's rep it 1,000 times over the course of the week. That's watch it 1,000 times to tell them all the individual things that you're going to do to make a play on that particular down. Oh, wait, but the quarterback kept it. Oh, we forgot about that play type of thing, and in some individual instances. I thought that was a frustrating, because it would suggest that we don't know we don't have a quarterback player in our defense a couple times, and that certainly is not the case. And we got to make sure as players that we don't take one coaching point specific to an individual assignment on an individual formation or backfield set and then apply it to all things. And also if it's a play that's taking place early in the game, well, obviously the next time you see a similar play, well, that's exactly what it's going to be. I'm going to do the same thing I did prior to. So anyway, that's a long answer, but no, all those things, obviously are applicable to this past Saturday.
Time for two more. John Hoover.
Yeah, Alex, are there times in the game when you go back and watch the video, are there times you see guys shying away from contact or coming into a pile and making the decision, I don't want any of that, whatever it is? There
certainly is. I mean, one of the things, and if it's wiggling, hit it, is one of the comments I would make. When the ball carries up and it's moving, get involved in it somehow, some way. I mean, I think a great instance is Brian Asamoah, sprinting after a receiver, to dislodge a ball. Don't be the guy caught standing around a pile. I think, specific to the one play at the end of the game, I felt like, there's 11 guys almost guilty of it, even the guys making the tackle. But no, that's something that we evaluate in terms of missed strip attempts. Is kind of how we evaluate that. I think other instances, from a tackling standpoint, sometimes you throw a shoulder and the guy falls to the ground. That doesn't mean that's a good tackle. That doesn't mean that that's the feedback that you get if that individual falls to the ground, that all of a sudden that's how you tackle. We don't do that drill in practice. Why would you try to do it on Saturday? And so, some of those instances, we just got to make sure that from a discipline standpoint, have an appreciation that you're trying to tackle another human being, how difficult that is, and also have an understanding when someone else is trying to do it, the impact that you can have. A guy that's standing up with a ball in his hands and he's under duress by multiple players is a great opportunity for a takeaway. I know we've gotten some. There was certainly more opportunities in that game.
Quick follow, was there a lot of those typically than what is typical for you?
I don't know. I mean, I look at the game. I think there was 11 TFLs, and I think there was another 7, 8, 9 0-yard gains. And then if you go 2 yards or less in terms of the gains, I think there's some really tremendous examples of exactly everything we want to be defensively. Now, the problem with defensive football is the percentage can be way in your favor, and it only takes 1, 2, 3, or 4. I think it's 4 runs accounted for half of their yardage. That doesn't make you feel better. But no, whether it was percentage on that versus other games, I don't know if it would accurately portray how the guys played, but certainly one's too many is the real answer.
Ron Chapman.
Alex, after the game we talked about the penalties that helped along Baylor's scoring drives. You had face masks in the first half, unsportsmanlike course calling second half. What does that look like this week as far as correcting that when you're 10 games in and they seem to just be mental penalties, one of them away from the ball, 2 of them when the play's already over? How do you fix that?
Yeah, no, it's fixed. I mean, if you want it to be, but it's the same thing in basketball. If you throw the ball into the second row, how do you fix it? Well, you don't do it again. It's easy to say, it's harder to do in those moments. And quite frankly, it shouldn't be harder to do in those moments, but sometimes it is. Sometimes it's the emotional stability that's required of you as you go through, big time football games and adverse conditions and maybe things aren't going your way type of thing. But no, I think overall, I think we've been a fairly smart football team, so with the exception, and we got to make sure that we learn from those things because it can dictate outcomes. It can drive the, or extend drives and put yourself in a bad situation and impede your ability to win football games. And it hurt us this past week.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, thanks, guys.